You ever noticed how different the world feels after midnight? How a tiny little worry from your day can suddenly blow up into this massive, terrifying thing? Or how you kind of feel like a totally different person in the dead of night compared to who you are at, say, lunchtime? Well, it's not just you. It's a totally universal experience. And it turns out it is not just in your head. Okay, let's get into this, because the story of why our brains do this big switcheroo at night is this amazing tale of ancient survival clashing head-on with our modern world.
So it all starts with a question we've probably all asked ourselves. Are you a morning person? You know, the one who jumps out of bed ready to go when the sun comes up? Or are you a night owl, doing your best work, your best thinking long after everyone else is asleep? It's easy to just write it off as a personal preference, right? Just a habit.
But the real answer is, well, it's so much bigger than that. It stretches back thousands and thousands of years, deep into our evolutionary past. This isn't some random personality quirk, it's a feature, not a bug. It's an ancient survival mechanism, literally written into our genes.
To really understand what's going on with us now, we have to go back in time, way back. Back to a world where getting a full night's sleep was a luxury, but having someone awake to stand watch, that was a matter of life and death.
This idea has actually been kicking around for a while. Way back in 1966, a psychiatrist named Frederick Snyder came up with this idea he called the sentinel hypothesis. Basically, he pointed out that for any animal living in a group, sleep is when you are most vulnerable. So what's the solution? Simple. Don't all fall asleep at the same time.
So the sentinel hypothesis, in a nutshell, is this. If you have different sleep patterns within a group, you create this natural 24/7 security system. Some folks are night owls, some are morning larks. Together, they create a continuous watch, protecting the whole group from predators or enemies while they rest.
For a long time, this was just a really cool theory. But then, not too long ago, a team of researchers went to Tanzania to study the Hadza people. They're a modern hunter-gatherer community whose lifestyle gives us a real glimpse into how our own ancestors might have lived. The researchers put these activity trackers on them to see if this whole sentinel thing was actually real.
For 20 straight days and nights, they collected data, tracking the sleep-wake cycles of 33 adults in the group. And what they discovered was, honestly, just incredible.
Get this. Over that entire 20-day period, there were only 18 minutes, 18, where every single adult in the camp was asleep at the same time. Just let that sink in for a second. Out of almost 30,000 minutes they watched, the group was basically never completely vulnerable. On average, at any given moment through the night, a third of the group was awake.
And this perfectly demonstrates what the researchers nicknamed the poorly sleeping grandparent hypothesis. They found a really strong link between age and when you sleep. Younger people were the night owls, staying up late. Older people were the morning larks, waking up super early. So that mix of ages created the perfect staggered night watch, ensuring someone was always awake and alert. It's genius, really.
Okay, so that was our ancient superpower. It kept us safe. But what happens when you take that ancient, life-saving wiring and drop it into our modern world of quiet, dark bedrooms? Well, this is where our story takes a sharp turn. From collective safety to individual risk.
What used to be an incredible advantage for the group has now become a potential danger for the individual. Think about it. Back then, being awake at 2 a.m. meant you were the protector, the guardian. Today, being awake at 2 a.m. usually just means you're alone with your thoughts, and your brain starts playing by a whole different set of rules. And this isn't just a vague feeling. We have some really sobering data on this. Now, if you look at the gray bars on this chart, you'll see that the raw number of suicides is highest in the afternoon. That makes sense, because that's when most people are awake. But look at the black line. That's the one that tells the real story. It shows the risk for any single person who happens to be awake at that hour. And that risk absolutely skyrockets after midnight, peaking at over 4 times the daily average, right around 2 a.m.
And this all leads us to this modern theory, the perfect counterpoint to the sentinel idea. It's called the mind after midnight hypothesis. The idea is that when we're awake during our biological night, when our body thinks we should be asleep, our brain chemistry literally shifts. We enter this weird state where our thoughts get distorted, our emotions turn negative, and our impulses become almost impossible to control.
And it's not just in our heads. This vulnerability spills out into our actual behavior. Of course, the risk for suicide and self-harm goes up, but so does the likelihood of things like violent crime, using illicit substances, and yeah, even unhealthy eating. You know those intense late-night cravings for pizza or ice cream? That's a direct result of this nighttime brain state.
So what is actually going on up there? Why does our brain seem to betray us after midnight?
It really boils down to this perfect storm of three huge things changing in our brain all at once.
First off, the CEO of your brain basically clocks out for the night. I'm talking about your prefrontal cortex. That's the part that handles rational thought, planning ahead, impulse control, all the adulting stuff. Its activity just dials way down, leaving your judgment impaired and your view of reality all warped.
So, at the exact same time your rational brain is going quiet, your emotional brain is grabbing the microphone and cranking the volume to 11. Our positive mood naturally bottoms out in the middle of the night, while all our negative feelings spike. This is the real biological reason why a small problem from your day can feel like an absolute world-ending catastrophe at 3 a.m. Your brain is literally primed for pessimism.
And the grand finale? Your reward system goes haywire. Dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, starts acting up, making you way more sensitive to cravings and impulsive urges. And this is all happening just as the rational part of your brain that would normally step in and say, hey, maybe that's a bad idea, well, that part is offline. It is the perfect recipe for making some really poor choices.
Okay, I know. Hearing all that can feel a little bit scary, but here's the good news. Just understanding what your brain is doing is the first, most powerful step to getting a handle on it. So, how can we actually live with this ancient wiring in our modern world?
The whole game is about creating structure and calm. First, have a solid wind-down ritual. Things like reading an actual paper book, some gentle stretching, listening to quiet music. It sends a signal to your brain that it's safe, that the night watch isn't needed anymore. Second, if your mind is just racing, get those worries out of your head. Literally. Grab a piece of paper and write them down. The simple act of externalizing them breaks that looping cycle and makes them feel smaller. And third, if you're feeling overwhelmed in the moment, ground yourself. Stop focusing on your thoughts and focus on your senses. What does the blanket feel like? What does your own breathing sound like? This pulls your attention out of that negative spiral and back into the calm of the real world.
So in the end, every single one of us is carrying this ancient sentinel programming. It once kept our ancestors alive in a really dangerous world. Today, that same programming gives us this really unique challenge in our quiet, isolated nights. Understanding both sides of this coin, the evolutionary gift and the modern risk, that's everything. So the question isn't really about whether you're a lark or an owl. It's about how you'll choose to navigate your